Thanks, Brandon!
Oh, goodness.
Yep, I've forgotten what my real face looks like.
No scars, though.
He does.
I was bleeding.
Which, just like you, makes me an anomaly, an aberration.
Watch the switch.
You're too young to be on steroids, but
Nerd. No, you don't. You just talk a lot.
Oh no, trust me. You haven't seen me on a day where I have to yell.
I'm just kind of plopping on. I really should probably be more careful. There we go.
That's what I get for wearing a hoodie for this.
So I tell everybody, if you like pinch your clothes up, see, that's perfect.
There we go.
Look at that.
There.
You were rocking it.
Kind of
Okay.
comes up out. Okay.
So I have to say before we even start, like your teaching ability, I don't know much about wrestling, like the technicalities of it, but I do know about teachers, and I do know that what I saw tonight,
Yeah.
you not only listened when you needed to listen, you made sure that they did too, and you like tailored what you were telling them. I don't want to say advice because it's not advice, your lesson.
Yeah.
It was very individual, and you worked with the way that they learned. And it's all really slight differences, but I'm stupidly impressed.
Thank you.
Stupidly impressed. So yes.
I actually have her and my tag partner Kevin to thank for that. So, because I don't know, are we recording right now?
We are recording right now.
Right
yes.
now, I can block this part out. Kevin's a school teacher. He's a high school teacher in a shoe
Okay.
job.
I will like clip it.
Like block that out. Like or yeah. Sorry.
I could see that.
Yeah.
But it takes a certain type of personality to be a teacher. I taught pre-K.
Yeah.
And it really does, because it wears on your soul sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen it with her. Trust me, she and I actually were together for 3 years, and she's been the teacher the entire time I've known her. And she, seeing her come home sometimes after her class is just overwhelming. Like it's like, how do I help her make this better?
I don't think anybody can. That's why teachers should be paid more.
I highly agree. The most underutilized and underpaid the demographic in the job market right now. Yeah.
So why did you choose to why are you teaching? Like I mostly know why, but why?
Yeah. So I realistically kind of have to go all the way back to the beginning of everything, and I apologize. I will get a little
No, that's fine. Just we'll stay away from timelines.
Okay.
Just generalities.
Long story short, like before I started wrestling, like me and I call him my little brother, but he wrestled under the name Mick Veazey. We actually used to run a backyard promotion together. And in order to do that, like we had picked up, there's these DVDs that came out in like 99 or 2000 or something like that. And they're called the Ultimate Pro Wrestling Training DVDs.
Okay.
And I'm watching this DVD, and there's guys on this video that you'll know today, like Samoa Joe's on there, John Cena's on there when he was the prototype, Frankie Kazarian, Christopher Daniels, and they're essentially walking through like their general lessons of pro wrestling training, like everything from running the ropes, taking your bumps, all of that. And we got this. It's a set of 3 DVDs, and we started kind of like training ourselves, like trying to prepare ourselves. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing, because it's like, okay, here, let's do this together. And when I got into pro wrestling, when I actually got trained and everything, I realized everything that I was doing was absolutely wrong. Just because I was watching it on a DVD, it's completely different. And like, I know a lot of guys that over the years that never went and got formal training, and I would see guys get hurt because of it, or I would see guys go out and do things that were clearly like against, for lack of better terms, the code of pro wrestling.
Okay. What is the code of pro wrestling? You can't just say a thing and not.
I mean, the code of wrestling is essentially trust and safety. We are trusting each other with our bodies in that ring.
Okay.
And if we can't be safe with each other, we can't trust each other, which means no, certain people aren't going to want to work with each other. So
fair enough.
And there are certain people in this business that they can't be trusted because they can't be safe. So either they get booked because of their look, or they don't get booked at all because nobody wants to work with them.
Okay.
And that's kind of like part of why, like, over the years, like, as I was learning and picking things up, it's like I started like kind of like teaching certain people things here and there. The first class I ever helped out with at the House of Truth was in 2019. And at that point, like, I knew one day I kind of wanted to open a school, but I never really knew how to go about it.
Okay.
So when I started helping out there a little bit, like, I kind of felt like, okay, I could probably do this, but I got some time.
But why though?
I want more for pro wrestling, so to speak.
Okay.
I want, like, because right now there's a lot of great schools out there, but a lot of them are very expensive.
Yeah, they are.
Yes, like there's Black and Brave, which is thousands, and my price is in the thousands too, but it's still a reasonable price, and I'm not trying to put that over. But House of Truth, great school.
Yes.
I had the pleasure of training there, being the assistant trainer for 3 years, and I'm very happy for my time there. But they are a 12-week course, and you pay either $2,500 up front or $3,000 in installments.
Yeah, I've looked at it before.
Yeah, and like there are sometimes people like can't afford to pay that. Another part of it is distance. Like, everybody knows what House of Truth is, but being able to afford to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to go to the House of Truth,
more.
Yeah, or more in some cases, is hard for people. On top of paying that amount, and again, this isn't specifically about House of Truth.
No, but it's the one you're the most familiar with, so it makes sense you would reference it.
Exactly, and I learned the most there when it came to teaching. So, like, I wanted, like, and I've had conversations with other people, I want there to be more wrestling schools out there. And I'm not necessarily saying like people just open up a place and, pop a ring in a backyard or in a storage shed, because there are some people that do that.
And I imagine so.
Yeah. And just, like, I want there to be more quality schools out there. Like, and I want to be on that list of quality schools, because I feel like there are people out there that don't get a chance to really get in this business and really see what it's about, because they're either afraid to take that step, because they see things or they hear things, or like they get this assumption sometimes that, like, wrestling school is like a military camp in some cases, and in some schools are.
I mean, it's you're pretty firm, and you have boundaries and rules, and you expect both of those to be honored. But I don't consider that any different than a good boss. Like, you're not mean about it. You're just, I said what I said, and that's it, pretty much.
Exactly. And there are some schools that are completely extreme. Like, they're like, you have like, when you do your warm-ups, you're doing all your warm-ups together, like military drill style.
Okay.
And there's other schools that, like, have no structure whatsoever. And that's actually a conversation we were having the other day, or not the other day, earlier this evening. I wanted there to be something that was attainable for people.
Okay.
And affordable, but at the same time welcoming and structured enough for people of just about any type to be able to understand it. I
understood things, and I don't understand anything. So you did a good job.
And honestly, I would have never thought that I could do this had it not been for helping out at House of Truth, because, and I still remember when I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do this. Like, Martin looks at me one day. Truth Martini looks at me one day when I was just kind of helping out and kind of like going through a couple things with people. He looks at me and goes, "You like doing this?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You like teaching? You like training?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "My goal is to one day open up my own school." He goes, "Cool." And I did not expect that 3 years later I would be opening up a school. I figured, I just need to, like, get a little bit of momentum, and I need to start traveling more. I need to get my name out there, and this is helping me get better. But I turned around and focused so much on the training and everything. I kind of like put going out there and getting my name out there more often on the wayside, and started focusing on like what I need to do to be the best possible trainer I could be, because that's where I started to kind of feel like I could make an impact with wrestling again. I'm gonna be 40 this year. I don't know how much time I have left in this business.
I mean, that's true. There is a limited time shelf, especially when you do lots of physical things. Because no matter how careful you are, there's still a chance you can get hurt.
Exactly. And after 18 years, like, I don't know how much more I have left.
It's a long time.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there were some lulls in my time in the business. Like, there were times like I, took very few bookings, or I did very few shows. And most of that time was when I was, like when I had a young daughter, she was a toddler or a baby. That makes sense. Yeah. But when I finally got out of a place where it's like, okay, I know my daughter will understand. Like, if I'm on the road, I started going back on the road again, started getting my name back out there again. And then I retrained at the House of Truth and started getting my name out there further. And I, over time, like, I knew, like, I don't know how, I don't know if I'm going to get picked up by WWE. I don't know if I'm going to get picked up by AEW or Impact or NWA or even MLW.
Is that always the goal?
Yeah, to be
always.
On TV? Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, for me specifically, not for everybody.
Okay.
Not everybody has that goal of, I want to be on TV. Some people, and I view this in 4 different categories. Like, there's, in my opinion, there's 4 different people, and I think you and I might have had this conversation before.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, there are 4 different people, 4 different types of people that get in the business. There's the people that do this because they genuinely love it, and it's something that they're passionate about, and it's something that they want to make a career out of. And kind of on that same side of the coin, there's the people that do this because they think it'll get them rich and famous. Like, they maybe still love it, they maybe don't, maybe they see it as a way to, make a fortune.
Okay.
But they do what they can, they put the work in, and they do what they can to make their money out of the business.
Okay.
And then on the flip side, and I feel like that first side is the positive side. On the flip side, it's the negative side. There's the people that do this because they want to look cool in front of their friends and family, or they want to be their hometown hero, but they never go out of their hometown or never go out of that vicinity. Sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of wrestlers that are not horrid, not bad, like good.
Yeah. And
they don't go anywhere, and I'm like, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not specifically, it's not just like males. I just use bro as a
like
general.
It's everywhere. It's not just like 1 or 2 places. Like, every area has those guys and those girls. And then the fourth one is the ones that I detest the most, and they get into the business because they think it'll get them laid.
Oh, I mean, fair enough. That seems to be a common.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like, they're not wrong.
I mean,
yeah, there are plenty
ring
of
rats. I remembered this time.
Exactly.
I keep wanting to call them lot lizards.
Well, I mean, same difference.
Yeah.
But like, that's what they think. They think like, okay, I can go through and I can make chicks want me because I'm a pro wrestler.
Okay.
And
I mean, yeah, I'm sure that works.
In some cases, yeah, not all. I mean, there's some guys that like clearly like, what are you doing? Like, nobody is going to find what you're doing in there attractive. Or nobody's going to be okay with what you're doing in there, like, and think it's cool.
But like, that's a thing guys do, though. Mm-hmm. I was talking with somebody yesterday, and I was talking about like how wrestling is like, it's a community, and it's great.
Yes.
Until it's not. But it's like a little microcosm. Like, it's all the little cliques and personalities that you get out in the real world, but it's like condensed soup. Like, there's a lot more of each little thing.
Oh yeah.
Is that like, that's not acceptable, right? Like, is that something just guys will be guys or whatnot, which I detest, by the way, but
unfortunately, yeah, that is kind of like a, for lack of better terms, a guys will be guys thing. And it's not just guys will be guys. It's just, yeah, it's like the high school mentality, essentially. Okay. Like, it's there's the jocks, there's the weird goth kids, there's the stoners, there's like, and don't get me wrong, like, they're not categorized
No,
like that in
but
wrestling.
but
yeah.
it's the same
Yeah.
feeling. Like there's
Mhm.
those people, those are
Yeah.
those people, and then those are those
Exactly.
people.
Yeah, it's like it's that promotion's guys, and yeah, some of those guys go other places, but it's like those are the guys for that promotion.
I mean,
primaries.
like I can even tell. I'm a watcher,
Yeah.
and you can tell like who is the promotion people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's like the just general groups of people. There are some guys that like travel between groups, just like in high school.
I mean, yeah.
And then there's others that like don't, like they're just pure loners. They don't get involved in any of those groups.
Which also is I feel that feel.
Yeah. But that's just kind of how it is. Like essentially pro wrestling is real life volume turned up in all aspects.
I like that. Yeah. I've been trying to like find a good way to say what I was trying to say. I like that.
What we do in the ring is essentially like a live action comic book.
When you were talking, you said theater, and I have been preaching to this is theater.
Yes.
This is like the minstrel shows, and it's entertaining. You have to be entertaining, and you have to sell it, because nobody's going to believe that whatever is happening is actually happening. We know it's fake. Like, I know I'm not supposed to say that, but it's fake. But it's not. Like, the story isn't real. Like, I'm sure most guys don't want to like beat the shit out of each other.
Oh, well,
most guys. Look, okay. Some guys.
Yeah.
But it's real. Like, you really have to be physically in. You have to watch your steps. You have to know. You have to be aware of all of the other people. You have to be aware of in the audience if you're going to be coming out. Like, there's so much to be aware of. And I knew most of it, but like today, like tonight, watching, I was like, damn.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. And this is only week 1.
I know. It's 3 days in.
Yeah. And these guys are like just now, like in 3 days, they're learning how to bump. They're learning how to use their feet. They're learning how to run. They're learning how to roll and just do the basics of the basics.
What is the first thing you teach everybody?
A front roll.
Really?
Yeah, it's a front roll.
Somersault?
Yep. Simple as that.
All right.
Everything we do in wrestling is based off of all of these initial movements. Everything
they did tonight.
We do.
I could kind of see some of them.
Like, there's still more to it, obviously. Like,
I mean,
you build on piece by piece. We never like take something away and replace it. Everything that we do, we just take a piece and we add a new piece onto it, and then we add a new piece onto it.
I mean, that's a smart way to do it.
Exactly.
It makes sense to learn it in a linear fashion like that.
Yeah. And then by the end of like the way that I have it structured, okay, so if you go to other schools, every school has its own different system.
Okay.
And for example, when I originally trained at Dan Severn's school, they didn't have a set system. The only system they really had is there's 2 sections of the training facility. There's the lower level with all the wrestling mats, and it's a big wide open space, and then there's the ring, and this is just the main room. There's actually like 7 rooms in this facility, by the way. 2 of them are barracks. They're bunks, which I used to live in one of them.
Okay.
There's a kitchen. There's 2 bathrooms. One of them's a team or like group bathroom where it's like multiple showers. And then there's one that's a separate shower, which after I had moved out, Dan Severn himself moved into the far end and took over that bathroom, essentially. And then for coming in from each of the barracks on the, I want to say on the north end, if I'm not mistaken, if you're coming in, the first room you walk into is the kitchen. And it's a fully functioning, like, not quite restaurant level kitchen, but it's a fully functioning, like, kitchen that you can, like, they would do concessions out of when they did shows of and everything, with a whole like almost dining space.
That's a really smart design.
And the next room from there is like a full gym.
Wow.
Yep. And then the next room over, there's 2 doors from there. The next room over would be a boxing room.
Okay.
It's lined with like heavy bags, like hanging heavy bags. And then in that room, there are 2 spots over there where there's some form of training going on. There's a boxing ring, which is also doubles as a wrestling ring. And then
it's just the number of ropes, right?
No, it's a 3-rope ring.
Oh.
But it doubled as a wrestling ring because it was specifically built to do both MMA,
Okay.
boxing. Well, 3 MMA, boxing, and pro wrestling.
So why boxing? I know I'm bunny trailing. I'm sorry.
No worries.
That's what I do.
No worries. Dan Severn taught all kinds of stuff there. He taught boxing, wrestling, kickboxing. He had instructors for all of these, but high school wrestling, like seminars. He taught self-defense stuff, pro wrestling.
I see you have a little boxy bag. Like, is that for the training, or is that just like
it's for the
because you like a boxy bag?
No, it's for the training. It's later on when we get further into the course.
Why? Why boxing? My dad used to be a boxer. I'm curious.
Well, like we're not doing boxing here.
Well, no, I'm being like, what benefit does it like?
Targeting, placement.
Okay,
so,
all right.
Obviously, you have the size of it and everything. Again, this is still first phase of everything.
Obviously,
right here. We're still kind of bare bones right now. But when I have this and this comes into play, this will have specific places and markings on it to specifically designed for targets and things of that nature.
Oh, that makes so much sense. I wondered how one learned that without like killing each other.
Essentially, yeah. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. We do it with each other's bodies first.
Well, yeah, you have to, don't you?
Exactly.
You do it with each other's bodies first?
Yeah, because if then we need to readjust, that's what we have this for.
Oh, I see. That's like fine-tuning the instrument then.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. And I'm hoping if everything works out by the time I'm done with this facility, it'll be a fully functioning like gym, training, promos, everything. Like,
all right.
I don't just want it to be the in-ring stuff. I don't just want it to be teaching how to put a match together. Like my goal with this facility is specifically to turn it into, and I mentioned it at the grand opening show, to turn it into a fully functioning performance center. And if it grows, then move into a bigger building. And,
I mean, you would need to.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Not that this is tiny, but like.
No, this is honestly like, this building fell into our laps.
Really?
Yeah, for the company, like it fell into, like I was scouring different areas. I was looking at Flint. I was looking in Lansing. I was looking here in Waterford. I was even looking at Pontiac. I wanted to avoid Pontiac. Different conversation. I was even looking like Fenton, Howell, middle of nowhere type area.
Okay, yeah, that's really middle of the nowhere.
Yeah. So I was trying to find something because there were 3 things in my head. I wanted something that was central to Lansing, Flint, Saginaw, Ann Arbor, and Detroit. Something where anybody could travel within roughly about an hour.
Everybody forgets about Grand Rapids. Do you know we exist? Do you know we're the second biggest city in Michigan? Did you know that?
I did know that, actually.
You wouldn't know it with the wrestling there. Oh, no. Wait, there is none. Sorry, I'm a little salty.
I don't know you.
But Grand Rapids, it was 2 hours and 11 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a bad drive. It's straight. It's a straight shoot, really.
Yeah.
It's 96 to 69 and 75, and then like 4 more minutes and you're here.
Exactly.
So Grand Rapids people can come.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little far.
Well, that's also the goal. It's not just about the training facility. The training facility and the shows fund each other. That's the goal behind this.
Okay.
And to grow it out of Detroit eventually.
So this isn't just like a wrestling promotion, and it's not just a wrestling school.
No. The goal of this is to turn New Edge Pro into, for lack of better terms, the promotion of Michigan. It's to make it the company that everybody wants to.
Then you're going to travel then.
That's the goal.
Okay.
Over time.
I mean, obviously, you got to get your feet on the ground. I'm not like, do it now. I'm like that.
But at the same time, also, like there is one other promotion that runs in Grand Rapids, and running in another promotion's territory is technically stepping on their toes. So I try and avoid that. Plus, with it being ran by one of my old trainers, I try not to piss him off.
I mean, fair enough, but also they're not in Grand Rapids that much.
Yeah. So it would be.
But I don't understand that. Like, I get it logically. Like, I don't want to step on each other's toes, whatever. But there's like 5,000 promotions in the Detroit area. Why can't there be 2? Why can't I have a choice?
That's honestly a really good question. To be honest with you, like,
if anybody owns Grand Rapids, it's the Push with Prue. And I will die on that hill.
That's fair.
And I say I want more promotions because I want to be able to go to wrestling and not drive 3.5 goddamn hours one way.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like the whole thing about like there being so many promotions in Detroit is because I mean, realistically, there are so many wrestling fans. Now, I used to wrestle in Grand Rapids. Yeah. I used to wrestle in Grand Rapids, and I know that at one point there was 3 promotions I ran. And they all died off, and I have no idea as to why.
I could speculate, and I'd probably be mostly correct.
What would you say is it?
The first is advertising. I'm not going to go to your show if I don't know who's wrestling. If you put up the same poster that you use every single time, nobody's going to go.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It also has to be quality. I'm not talking like you don't need a $500 sound system. If you're not going to use mics, be loud.
Yeah.
If you're going to use mics, make them fucking work. They're not that expensive. These were like literally, I feel like you could make these work with something or something.
Probably.
They sell them. It's not that expensive.
Yeah.
And pay your wrestlers.
That's another thing too.
If you don't pay your wrestlers, you're gonna not have wrestlers after a while because they're gonna go places where they'll actually get money. Even if it's like 10, 15 bucks, here's some money for gas. This is all I got, bro. Like, I'm really sorry.
Exactly.
Like, I would feed them, but
and that's what it ultimately boils down to.
But I think that's why they died out.
Because they don't advertise, or they can't afford advertising a lot of times.
You can you go talk to people. I talk to people.
Yeah.
Look at me. I have anxiety, so I don't accept. It's a damn shame. It's a damn shame.
I will agree with that. It is a shame.
I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent.
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, I agree. There should be more quality promotions in places like Grand Rapids.
Yes.
Like the other promotion runs there. I'll say the name. It doesn't bother me one. Independence Pro. Like, I personally think they're a really good promotion, and I know that they are a lot based on the trainer and his students and everything of that nature, and then he utilizes other people that are from the state of Michigan for the most part, and with some outside talent here and there. But that's one promotion, and there is so many promotions throughout the state of Michigan that it's like anybody can almost go anywhere and watch wrestling, but it's a frequency thing as well. It's a consistency thing. So if there's a promotion, and I know why one of the promotions died out, it's because one, the promoter was inconsistent.
I mean, that's also, you have to be, I don't want to just be like, oh, I don't know when they're going to have a show, but I know when, XICW or Chaos, like I know they're going to have a show like every month.
Yeah.
So I can plan. When I used to work retail, I used to plan my days off or the times I only came in to do books, like around wrestling, because I knew what was happening. I want to know.
Yep. And that's a lot of the hardest part, because there's so many promotions either that don't know how to advertise, or there's promotions that are inconsistent with their dates and they're constantly changing. Or they're changing venues.
Yes. That's not professional. That's not a good look.
Exactly.
It's not a good look.
So they die off. They die off quick. That was the promotion that I was booking before, Total Chaos Wrestling, which is how I ended up in the position I'm in right now, realistically. Not just teaching at House of Truth, but when I was booking for TKW, that's how New Edge Pro ended up falling into my lap.
Oh.
That's how because I posted that big long post about the owner of that company.
Yep.
And immediately the next show, after everything went down, I had already had the logo, because originally it was an idea that was put together before TKW came back.
Okay.
Now, the first run of TKW, they were changing venues every single show. And they were running in a backyard, or then they were running during the pandemic. It was really the only place we could run.
I've heard that happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of promotions that were doing that. Like, even some of the biggest promotions were doing that. They were finding the biggest backyard of somebody that they knew, and then they were paying
See, and I wish I would have known that, because I saw my first match right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and I was like,
wrestling was gone.
I really liked that match. I want to go watch it again, and there was nothing.
But the last show that they did for TKW before everything went down was another outdoor venue.
Okay.
And they kept running outdoor venues. They had one indoor venue, and that's the venue that we have now, the Taylortown Trade Center.
Okay.
So when TKW came back, our struggle was finding a venue.
Okay.
And there are a lot of venues that don't allow wrestling there. So
really?
Oh yeah. And yeah. Especially when it comes to certain areas, especially more, for lack of better terms, more like religious-based areas or religious-heavy areas.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So finding a venue is tough because in certain areas there was wrestling and they had a bad experience with that building and the building said no more.
Okay.
I have seen...
You ruined it for everybody else.
Exactly. My hometown for 10 years was ruined for wrestling because of one promoter. Wow. He ran every venue in town and got wrestling banned at every venue in that area.
What a jerk off.
Yeah. And there was one venue left and he shut down before they could get to that one. So when a good friend of mine, John Ballard, started Chicagoland Championship Wrestling in my hometown.
Okay.
He found the one venue that hadn't banned wrestling. And they got in there. Now, they are not consistent right now because he tries to do it for TV and he tries to do it for other aspects. But he runs a really good product and he tries to get it out there as much as possible.
Okay.
In my hometown, outside of that, like you couldn't get wrestling in there because of that last promoter until John Ballard came into place. That's shitty. Yeah, and it's like that for a lot of towns, especially smaller towns. Because you could probably find, with the exception of a place like Kalkaska, for Mr. Chainsaw.
They love their Mr. Chainsaw up there. And they really do.
Exactly. And if you look at the area, there's not a lot going on.
Oh, no, there's not. No. Once you go up above Cadillac, you're pretty much like, nope.
Yep. Cadillac 2, UWE, Eric Freedom.
He
draws really well. Yeah. There's not a lot going on out there. But
no, there's not.
In an area like Detroit, where it's overpopulated with people and you have 12 promotions, it's hard for them to all run and stay on the same page and not step on each other's toes.
What would help with that? Communication.
So that's a conversation for another day. That's a conversation for another day. There are promoters that do communicate with each other.
Definitely, or we wouldn't be having like ICW versus Chaos and
exactly.
Yeah,
and
I like to see that.
That show, the joint promotion shows are all usually really cool. Those are hard to do too, but that's for a whole other reason.
My God, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. But finding venues is the hardest part.
Is it?
Venues, yes, it's always the hardest part because you can contact 5 venues, and of those 5 venues, one might be big enough to do it, but odds are they're probably not going to let wrestling in. Or the other one will let wrestling in, but you have to have certain criteria in order to do it.
Okay.
Or one might allow wrestling and has no specific criteria, but their ceiling is
like right above the ring. Yeah, I've been at matches like that. That shit's scary.
Yeah. So it's like you can either just pick whatever venue is willing to have you and take a risk, potentially damage the building, and then ruin it for everybody else again, or you take your time, find the right building, find the right group that's willing to work with you. We got lucky with Trailertown Trade Center. We have a great relationship with them, and they have the best space we could have picked for wrestling in the area. Plus, it has a history of wrestling.
And I don't know anything about that, but it is it's right off the highway. It's a good area. There's parking.
Yeah.
Which is really important. I really don't want to walk 80 miles to the show. Because again, I usually drive like 3 hours. I don't want to walk too. This is not an exercise body. That's not what I do.
No. So when it comes down to things like that, the venue is always the first key. Like obviously the funding. But
I was going to say, do you need sponsors? I was going to ask that.
Everybody needs sponsors. Nobody knows how to get them.
How do you get sponsors?
Just talking to businesses.
I could do that. Yeah. I'm good at that.
Well, there you go.
I am.
Yeah. And that's, again, because if you don't have the funding to run a show, you shouldn't be running a show.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. Sorry, I got trailed off for saying that.
No, you're all right.
Obviously the funding has to come first, and then finding the right venue, and then the advertising, and making sure you have all of your ducks in a row with your talent, all of your other resources, and it's hard. It's really hard. Plus, there are certain people that won't wrestle for certain people. So it's like if you're involved with somebody, Now you got to worry about that connection affecting some of your talent or affecting somebody that is.
That's petty AF. That's not necessary. Y'all are grown ass folks. Grown ass folks act like it.
It is, but also there are some people that it's like, yeah, I don't want to put myself in that position where it would hurt my career, which makes sense.
All right, I'll accept that as an answer. But I mean, for the most part, I feel like y'all are grown, act like it. Oh, yeah. That's why I don't miss being a manager. Because I used to have to deal with that all of the time.
Trust me, that's one of the hardest things about like being a manager or running a business of any kind is like dealing with the people, dealing with the drama. But yeah, like finding a venue, finding the funding, it's difficult. But if you get the right sponsors, you create the right relationships.
So if somebody wants to sponsor you, what do you do? Like if I'm going to go call businesses in this area tomorrow for you.
Yeah.
Okay. What am I going to offer them? A banner on the side of the ring? Like, do we get logos before the videos that you are going to post on YouTube, I'm assuming? Because that's a big thing. A lot of promotions don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to watch your match a month after.
Yeah.
Bro, no.
When it comes to getting sponsors, it's like I actually do have like a pamphlet for sponsorship packages.
Do you really?
Yeah.
See?
And I've offered it to some businesses, and some businesses are like, it's kind of expensive for one show. It's like, well, if you do multiple shows, we can come to a deal.
Okay.
It's finding somebody that understands, like, whether or not these packages will work and help bring the business. It's creating that relationship and knowing, hey, this is a mutual thing here.
And you would have to, you would want to go for businesses that are for your demographic. Trying to think of a nice way to say that.
No, that's true. It's very true. Like, I'm not going to walk into, say, Macy's and say, hey, would you like to sponsor us?
No, they would laugh. No, they'd be like, what?
Unless it's like WWE. Like, they might sponsor WWE.
They might, yeah.
Might.
But it's not their demographic.
Exactly.
There's not a lot of Macy's peoples going to wrestling shows.
But if I go to a comic shop, they're more likely to be interested, which we actually have a relationship with a comic shop, actually, in Dearborn, Green Brain Comics. We go through and we bring them tickets, and they sell tickets for us.
Okay.
And then we advertise them. We don't get a monetary like exchange. They make money for us.
And it's a convenience for the people buying tickets to be able to go there to do it.
Exactly. If it's somebody that's already at the comic shop, like if they're already a frequent there, and they say, oh, they sell tickets to the wrestling show down the street. Cool, I'm going to grab these if they're already there. And it's finding places that will do stuff like that.
So feasibly, if you were traveling, would you want to set up sponsors in the town that you're going to go to?
Oh, first and foremost, yes.
We have a really nice comic book shop called Tardy's in Grand Rapids. Really? I'm like a dog with a bone. You should know that by now.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, sponsors would be the first and foremost thing, because it's gauging interest out there too. So if let's say we would bring New Edge Pro out to Grand Rapids. Getting a sponsor out there that can say, yeah, we'd love to see you out here. And we have like a bunch of customers that are huge wrestling fans, like a comic shop, in some cases smoke shops, things of that nature. I've even gotten interest from some adult toy shops here and there.
I mean,
they didn't sponsor or anything, but they saw what
would you accept a sponsorship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you sounded like
What I mean is like they weren't interested in like a monetary exchange or anything.
Okay.
Like that, but like they were more than willing to like let us post a flyer in their door.
All right.
And that is hard to get. Sometimes.
It really is. I canvassed the area around my work because we were having a blood drive. The amount of people that said no to a little was like this big. Yeah. Like, I am a very persuasive person, however.
Good. Yeah, like the one thing that we run into at the hardest time is just having places where we can just drop flyers. Because if we know they're not going to let us leave, just like the little
the 3x5s or whatever, 4x6,
something of that nature. Like if they're not going to let us do that, they're not going to let us put a flyer in the door. I mean, they're not going to want to actually take any kind of real interest in us, because they don't want wrestling.
So do you canvas? Do you go door to door and spiel people?
We go through and we'll first off, try and get flyers in. Like that's usually the first step.
Okay.
We'll try and see if we can drop flyers there. And then if we can get any interest off of them, or if we can discuss anything, or if we can find out, like we'll see if like would the owner here be interested in, you know, sponsoring people, or is the owner looking for somebody to help them advertise? Like we've been talking with a bunch of different people actually lately. It's just been trying to find the right relationships as well.
Does it work the same way when you advertise the school? Like, how do you get students here? Like
word of mouth.
Really? Okay, because I know the show I went to, the free show. That was. Is there like a special name for that?
Yeah, I mean, it was called Welcome to the Edge, but it was specifically that show specifically to do a grand opening for the school.
Okay, grand opening. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. I'm
tired. You're good. Like, that was specifically meant to try and drum up business for the school. Like,
I mean, there was a lot of people here.
Yeah.
And then it's really just all word of mouth. I see you're on, New Edge is on Facebook.
Yep.
Instagram, I'm assuming. Are you on the X/Twitter?
Yes, I am not as good with that yet. I'm still figuring that out.
I deleted mine. It's awful.
But there's still a lot of wrestling fans that use it. So that's why we try to put as much as possible.
There is.
I'm also trying to, I am trying to make more use of the social media we have. I will be the first to admit I kind of fell behind with everything while putting this together.
I mean, this is a lot to do.
Like
a lot.
It is. But if this works and the shows work and they work together, then we can continue to grow from there. And that's ultimately the goal. But yeah, it's mostly been word of mouth. Like the grand opening was hopefully to kind of help expand a little bit.
Okay.
Which it did actually.
I mean, you had people sign up.
I got people that not only signed up for the actual course itself, but I also had people that had some prior training who wanted to further their training sign up for.
Do you recommend? Because I know you did that. You did the whole like retrain at HOT.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
It's a big
one
thing.
Should do?
Absolutely. You should always find the next step in your training. You should always find the next place that's going to get you through the next door.
How do you know? How do you know like you need that?
When you find yourself as the best person in that locker room, essentially.
Oh, I see.
And this is actually a common conversation. If you go into a locker room as a wrestler and you are the best wrestler in that locker room, it's time to find a new locker room. If you're wrestling 5 shows every month or 10 shows every month, and you feel like you see the same 10 to 20 or 30 guys on every show, it's time to start sacrificing some of those shows and find new people to work with. When you get to a point to where you don't feel like you're learning anything or you're not growing, then it's time to either find a new area to work in or find a new school to train at.
All right.
Yeah. And in my opinion, personally, like there are a lot of great schools out there, but when you want to get into certain areas, the best way to do that is to train at a school in that area, because then not only do you have all the knowledge you got from that school in the area that you started at and the next one you got, but now you're coming in and getting the stamp of approval from that area.
It's like you got your passport stamped and now you're allowed in the country.
Exactly. And that's what I always recommend to people. Like I mentioned it during the show too at the end there. Ray Larson, for example, she initially trained at UCW under somebody else, and then she started training under me. I had taken over as trainer at UCW. She even stops in here and gets some training in. Now she's going into Can-Am to further her training.
That's dope.
Yeah, her goal is to get to Impact.
I could see that happening, like 100%.
She absolutely can. She's
She's got the moves and the look.
She looks like an athlete. She looks like a wrestler.
She does.
She is one of those people that, like I said, like she got to a point, and very early in her career, she got to the point to where she was either one of the best wrestlers in the locker room or she had the best look in the locker room. And now it's time to find the next level. And that's what she did. She found her levels.
There's so many people that don't do that though. Like now that you're saying that, like I'm thinking of all these people and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I can equate it to, there's a movie out there. I can't remember what it's called. But it's got Simon Pegg and Jeff Bridges. Oh,
nope, it's good.
Okay.
Simon Pegg and Jeff Bridges.
Simon Pegg, Jeff Bridges, Kirsten Dunst, Megan Fox. It's essentially Simon Pegg is this celebrity writer in England, and he's trying to essentially get himself into Hollywood, not as an actor, but he wants to be like that journalist in Hollywood and in the entertainment scene.
Oh, that's kind of dope.
Yeah. So Jeff Bridges made an analogy in that movie. He goes, in Hollywood, everything's another room. And I'm paraphrasing on this. I don't remember the exact wording. You got to get in the first room, and then you got to make your way through all the people to get to the back of the room where you find a door where you find the next room. And then there's a slightly more elite group of people in that room. And you make your way through all those people, you become friends with them, and then you find your way to the door in the back of that room. And then there's the next room. And every day, like the doors never end, the rooms never end, but you're constantly trying to find the next room, the next level.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. It very much
and
is.
Not very gratifying at all.
Well, that depends on what your goal is. Because there's some people that's like, hey, if I'm just trying to get into that first room, I'm good with that. And then they sit there and they mingle with the people in that room. And then they might stumble in the next room, and it's like, okay, cool, I'll just check it out and see what happens. And then maybe they don't like the next room, and then they go back in their room and they sit and they stay comfortable.
Okay.
And then there's those people that are literally trying to rush through every door they can, and they kind of burn themselves out real quick and realize, like, okay, this isn't what I wanted after all, and they bail. And then there's also those people that are like doing all the right things and trying to get to that next level, trying to get to that next room.
Can you do all the things and practice and learn all the things and still not be good?
Yeah, it happens. There are some people that just
suck.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry,
for lack of better
sorry,
terms,
not sorry.
There are some people that just suck. And some of them do their best and try and get better. And some of them are just like, is what it is. And there's some people that legitimately suck and just think that they're that good. And it's like,
yeah, there is.
There's a lot. Half of Michigan is probably hating me right now once they watch this.
I mean, that's fine. They can hate me more. Because I'll completely agree.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like people like that should be. A lot of them, I think, are lauded. Oh, you're so good.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to what, though? Compared to me, yeah, you're fucking phenomenal.
Compared to the guy sitting in the front row, yeah.
Yeah, but compared to, like, I don't know, anybody else, you're not really.
A lot of times, and it's funny.
I'm so bad.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. A lot of times, those guys that, like, still get booked like that or still get booked on frequent shows is because they know how to politic. That's what it is.
That's stupid.
I hate politics.
I also hate politics. If that's what that creates, you should be judged on your merit. Like a lot of times, like there'll be like famous wrestlers that show. I don't know who the fuck they are. I don't care. I don't care. You're going to either get up there and you're going to wow me, or you're not, and I'm going to find something in my phone.
Yeah.
And it actually very rarely do I do that. If the match is bad enough, like I'm like, oh, then it's bad. Because I'm very forgiving because I don't really know what to look for all of the time. Sometimes I don't have to look, though. It's shitty.
Yeah. Trust me, and that's one of the things, like, one of the things I go through, people, like, the worst feeling in the world is wrestling in that ring and looking over and seeing somebody on your phone.
I can imagine.
That's the worst feeling in the world, because once they pull their phone out, they're impossible to get back into it. Every once in a while, they might hear like a big bump and look up, and something cool's happening. Yeah, if something cool's happening, they might get back into like, oh shit. But the reality of it is, sorry, swearing again.
No, that's fine. I'm the one who does it all the time.
Okay. But the reality of it is if we can engage them from beginning to end and do our jobs well, then there's no reason for us to have to worry about that fear.
I mean, yeah. It's almost like it's common sense.
You'd think.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't. I worked retail. I would not at all.
Oh, man. But no, yeah, like that's something that, like, we would teach at House of Truth or in other areas. Like, if somebody's pulling their phone out, you've lost them, and you're going to have a harder time getting them back than you would have had if you'd have just kept them engaged from the beginning.
That's very true. And I liked your etiquette. I liked how you focused on selling it, but I also liked, like, shake everybody's hands, say hello to people, like, help break the ring down, help set it up.
Exactly. That's goes back to, for lack of better terms, the code of wrestling: trust and safety, trust and respect.
I mean, you help people out that you care about, even if it's shitty hard work and you don't really want to do it. You're doing it because you A, love it, and B, you like the people you work with and you want to help them. Like, that's a human thing, I think.
Not only that, plus we all want to go home at the end of the day.
I mean, right? Get this shit done and over with.
We want to get paid. We want to go home. We want to sleep. And when it boils down to, at the end of the day, there's 4 people tearing down the ring when there was 20 people on the show.
I've seen that before.
Time and time again. And when those 4 people tearing down the ring have been in the business longer than half that roster, that's a problem. That's a big deal.
I agree.
That's a lack of respect.
I also agree with that because it is. You gotta pay to play.
Yeah.
Like, you have to participate to.
Yeah. There's a reason why it's called paying dues.
Yeah.
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 Because you are paying your dues by setting up, tearing down. The ring crew doesn't always exist on the independent scene. Some promotions are fortunate enough to have set ring crews that aren't wrestlers. They just there to set up, tear down.
I've seen that one time. I was utterly amazed. I was like, are those just people for the ring?
Yeah. Yeah. But there are maybe 2 promotions in the entire state of Michigan that have their own set ring crew, and everybody else uses green guys or guys that are trying to come into the business on their own accord, like guys that are trying to come into a new promotion. And even when they have ring crews, there should still be green people helping out. There should still be new guys helping out, because if they really want to be there, they're going to do everything they can to make everything smooth and make everything run, as good as they can.
Well, you have to learn all the aspects of the business too. You have to learn, like, what you're looking for if one of those are effed up.
Yeah.
And I know, because I watch you guys, like you and other people like you. And I watch you and you check things and you look, and you can tell just by looking. Sometimes. I'm assuming not all the time.
I mean, it depends on it, but yeah.
You don't learn those kind of things if you don't do it.
Exactly.
It's the repetition. It's the.
Not only that, but I mean, 18 years into the business, if I'd have done what some of the guys now do 18 years ago, I would either have gotten my ass beat, because it was a way different time back then. I would have gotten heckled and embarrassed and hazed until I never wanted to come back.
That's not nice.
No, it's not. But
not nice.
That was the way of the business back then.
See, that's sucky though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I get the boundaries and the rules and the, like, helping out, but like that's ugly. That's very unhealthy, and I think it's very toxic, and I think it's created some of the toxicity in wrestling today.
Very much so.
Sorry again.
You're good. You're good. Or the third thing would I would just never have gotten booked in that promotion again.
Okay.
Like, and that's honestly, like, that's the worst of it, because I showed up and I didn't help them, and I had an opportunity that I burned. Like, getting my ass beat, I can handle getting my ass beat. A lot of guys can handle getting their ass beat, unless you're certain people, in which case they can go fuck themselves. Pardon my language. There are certain people that can handle being hazed, because sometimes it's just part of, like, the boys' mentality.
I mean, yeah.
But,
and it's not like a cult. It's a club.
Yeah.
And
it's a fraternity.
Fraternity. There we go. That's
very much a fraternity.
Girls, boys, doesn't matter. Like, it's a whole society. So yeah, there's going to be some hazing.
Yeah.
You can haze healthily, I think.
Yeah. It didn't used to be that way though. It's changed vastly over the years, thank God. But like, I can handle getting my ass beat. I've had my ass beat more times than I can think of. I can handle being hazed, because I used to have guys that literally used to call me by other wrestlers' names just to see how I would react. Like, and that was the mild stuff. Like, if you've ever heard the name Adam Bueller, he's a former he passed away a couple of years ago.
Okay.
He's a deathmatch wrestler, or was a deathmatch wrestler, who was actually a friend of mine many years ago. And he passed away due to leukemia, as well as complications of HIV. he was one of those guys that like a lot of people used to haze a little bit, like at the beginning of his career. But then he was a good sport about it. Like he had a hard time at first, but as he learned to kind of accept it and be a better sport about it, he started getting booked better, and he started like getting a better name for himself. And then when he started doing death matches, then he started getting flown and travel and all this stuff. So it's not like that for everybody. Nowadays, you don't like hazing isn't nearly as bad as it used to be.
That's good.
Yeah. Nowadays, also you can't get away with it anymore either.
Well, you say get used to it, but really that's just like bottling down any bad emotions you have for being verbally abused.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just how the business used to be. You had to have thicker skin than any other business I've ever seen in my life.
It sounds like carnies. My dad used to be a carny too, and that's what it sounds like.
Wrestling used to be involved in the carnival. That's how it started.
All right.
Back
that
in the
makes
1800s.
sense.
Yeah.
That makes a hell of a lot of sense now.
Yeah, but like the worst of all of those three is losing a potential booking, because now you've lost an opportunity to get in front of faces and fans. Now you've lost an opportunity to expand your reach, make more money, make a new fan, get in front of another promoter that maybe came to watch the show.
Do they do that?
Mm-hmm. I had 2 promoters at the show on the grand opening.
Did you? Oh, yes, you did. I know one of them.
Yeah. You see the gentleman over on this side? You know what I'm referring to?
Oh, you did too. Oh, I know both of them. Yay, I know people.
On my normal shows,
I didn't even like connect that. I was just like, oh, they're here to watch a show. That's so nice.
They are, but they also are kind of like, okay, there's anybody here that want a book? That's
smart.
I intentionally invite promoters to my shows.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the stepping on feet thing.
Yeah.
So promoters can come to a show, but you can't run a show make that make sense to me.
It's a radius thing a lot of times. So in Detroit, it's pretty much gone out the window. Realistically, it's gone out the window. There are promoters that are like, well, you're running too close to us.
I'm not touching
you. You moved to my area. Like I was running, like we were running in Taylor, and there was a promotion that literally moved closer to our area because it was the only venue they could find.
Okay.
Like literally like blocks away. And we're like, we were here. Why are you getting mad at us?
I mean, yeah, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah. There was another promoter that was like, well, there's too many promotions running. Why are you running? I'm like, he was going to run whether I was involved or not. So it was better that I get in here and not let him get screwed over.
I mean, yeah.
And then the whole other conversation. And there's other promoters that like try and like work together and take advantage of other promoters. And that is the most disgusting thing to me of all. Because I actually watched that happen recently.
How can that even happen?
Politicking. It's as simple as that.
But how do you take advantage of another promoter? Like, how would I do that? I don't think like that, so it's foreign to me.
So without naming names, I'm going to tell you a quick story of something that happened recently.
Okay.
There was a promoter that was running a very specific venue. It was a really cool venue. I mean, I wouldn't say it was the best wrestling venue out there, but it was a fun venue. It was a really cool looking venue.
Okay.
And then there was another promoter that ran in the other side of Detroit, essentially, like a little bit further north.
Okay.
That came in and said, hey, let's do a joint show together. We can cut the cost in half. I'll pay for my guys. You pay for you guys.
All right, fair enough.
We share a venue. We cut the cost on the venue. He owned a ring, so he brought his own ring.
Oh.
So it helped cut a lot of costs. At the end of that show, the owner of the primary promotion that ran that venue lost that venue because of that other promoter. And I don't know the full story. I'm just going off of what I know.
Okay.
I
mean, it's more than I know.
Yeah. And that other promoter ended up sticking the promoter that took the venue from him ended up sticking the bill on a lot of the talent to the other promoter, even for his own guys.
That's not okay.
Nope.
I get real twitchy when people don't treat wrestlers right, because A, they're humans, and B, they do a lot.
Yes.
Not all of them, but most of them.
Yep.
They work hard, and they work sometimes 2 jobs. I know somebody who had 3 and wrestled. Yep. Like, bro, do you sleep ever?
Exactly. And the worst part about it is that promoter that lost that venue is one of the nicest guys.
Oh, that's
and he
shitty.
does so much in the area for other people in promotions. Don't get me wrong, like he's got his faults too. He's a human being.
Everybody does.
Yeah, but he got taken advantage of. At the end of the day, he lost a lot of money. He lost the venue, and he was essentially like, don't get me wrong, like he got another venue.
I mean, still, it's the principle of the thing.
Exactly.
Like, it's the fact that it had to occur.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's just, I don't understand people. I don't understand people. Humans are really weird. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, it's just so much easier to not.
Exactly. So ultimately, it boils down to like, it's a matter of, again, it's a matter of respect. It's a matter of trust. And when you trust somebody, sometimes you trust the wrong person. That's wrestling. So I'm going to be honest with you, there are certain people that should have been out of this business a long time ago due to those aspects, but nobody's willing to check them. And I'm trying to...
See, you're nicer than I am, because if I knew that I would check them all the time, I would get on my little soapbox and I would be like, listen here, BITCH. And I would make sure that everybody within hearing distance also knew what was going on.
Because there are people that have done that.
They should.
It's nothing.
Sometimes injustice needs to be railed against.
Oh, I agree. But that's another reason why this came about, essentially.
I'm very happy. Yeah. Like, I'm very happy. I want to get you like all of the sponsors and all of the students, because I want this to not only succeed, which I know it will, but I want it to prosper.
That's the goal.
Prosper.
The goal is to take this, and also like one of the cool things about what we're doing with this too is, and I have had the chance to talk with several promoters about this. So I mentioned that I invite promoters.
Yes.
I specifically invite promoters because I do want outside talent to come out in this area, and I want there to be enough talent to go to all these promotions, and not necessarily be exclusive to those promotions, but to every promotion have its like really core guys that are different than every other promotion.
Yes.
But there's nothing wrong with exchanging talent.
I think it's smart.
Mm-hmm. And that's another reason why I think there needs to be more schools. Not necessarily a ton of schools, but there needs to be more quality schools.
I agree with the quality. There's some schools that I would rather not ever.
Yeah.
I'm being really nice right now because I really want to just rail off, but I know people like intimately involved, and
trust me,
that's about the only time I shut my mouth.
Yeah, trust me, I am right there with you. I'm very much an adamant of like schools or promotions or just people in the business in general taking advantage of their talent or their students, and that's a big issue.
Like your students, okay? Mm-hmm. So I realize once they're like cleared, they can wrestle.
Yes.
Yours first, I would assume, until they get better, because you don't want to be sending like half-trained mofos out there. That looks bad on you, and it's not good for them. It's not safe.
Yep.
So once they're ready for other shows, you would encourage them to go to other shows, right?
Not only that. So, and actually, that's kind of what I was getting to with the whole system.
Sorry,
No, you're fine. You're fine. You don't need to apologize. I promise. So, like, House of Truth has a 12-week program.
Yes.
That once you're done with that program, you go out and you get it. He doesn't have a promotion attached to it. He has such a big enough name where promotions will watch his school.
Okay.
So I have a similar program, but it's not identical. Okay. I have a program where you go through, for lack of better terms, you go through a 12-week, you go through about a 3-month program.
Okay.
And that's just the beginning course. Like, that's just learning the basics, learning spots, learning moves, learning how to put it together. And then after that 12 weeks, you're not just cleared and go out. You have to pass a specific criteria of different practice matches.
I think that's important.
Yes.
So important.
Yes. In training here, we don't just go over wrestling. I want everybody to learn how to cut a promo. I want everybody to learn how to be a referee. I
appreciate that. And I also appreciate you kept telling them to look at the hard cam, which I tried to be occasionally.
Yeah.
But that's so important because that's how you get people, like, they watch these YouTube videos and they're like, who is that?
Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah.
At least that's what I say.
Exactly.
And you have to be all of those things and have all of those things, good refs. And are you going to train referees?
Yes.
Are you going to train managers?
Yes. So
I want to be a manager.
And that's what I'm getting to also as well.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Everybody that goes to the school has to learn how to wrestle. They have to learn how to referee, and they have to learn how to manage.
Okay.
Because,
really?
Yes. I started as a referee, and I've managed.
Really?
Yes. And I refereed for almost 2 years before I had a single actual match.
Oh, holy shit.
I started training in 2004, in November of
Okay.
2004. I didn't have my first match until August of 2006.
Oh.
Because I was refereeing for so long.
I mean, that gets you like good skills because you really have to be aware. I've almost seen refs like die.
Oh yeah. The reason why I think reffing is so important is because it's also part of the communication of wrestling too. You have to learn how to be a referee because you have to learn how to utilize a referee. You also have to know how to utilize a referee so that way you know exactly where he's at all times.
Yeah.
And also, being a referee is a foot in the door to any promotion.
All right, fair enough. Because everybody needs a ref, right?
Exactly. I ref for 2 years. Being a referee got me into promotions. Being a referee got some of my students into promotions.
Okay.
Ike Watts was a referee for 4 years.
I know, I remember. I remember. I first saw him and I was like, oh my God, I know him.
Yep.
He was a ref.
And then there is another student of mine that I'm not going to say his name, but he's a referee for Mr. Chainsaw Pro Wrestling. And he also wrestles under a mask for other promotions. But being a referee up there got him into the promotion. And now he wrestles there.
That makes sense. Because you get like integrated into the society of the wrestling. And they're all different. All the promotions are different. Everyone that I go to.
Exactly. They all have like their own different style, their own different, a lot of times their own different roster. You have a few that like pretty much use all the same guys. But like, and then managing is also important too, because if you're a wrestler who has a manager and you don't know how to utilize them in the match, then what is the purpose of them being there?
There's some good managers.
Yeah.
There's some good.
Yeah, but there's also some really bad ones too.
Yeah, there is.
The reason why I want everybody to learn how to be a manager is so that way not only, and this one actually specifically because I hate to put it like this one is specifically about women in the business. There are a lot of women that hate just being the eye candy.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to be at ringside and not just be eye candy, this is how we make it work. This is how we make it so that way you're actually part of the story. You're actually like a pivotal point in this.
Like you distract the ref or you like grab a hold of Joe Schmo while your partner's distracting the ref, etc., etc.
And most of the women that are managers nowadays are trained wrestlers. But if they're trained to wrestle, they're not taught how to manage. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to be utilized, or they don't know how to work with the people that are working with them. So I find it very important that everybody learn to be a manager, so that way they know how to utilize a manager. And if they have another foot in the door with managing, it eventually gets them seen, and they can show like how much work they're willing to put in and turn around and potentially get a spot as an actual wrestler on the shows too.
Okay. Are you going to just be training just managers or just referees?
Everybody's going to go through
it's
the same
across
training.
the board. You're going to, I mean, that makes sense because as a referee and as a manager, it helps a fuck of a lot if you know what you're doing in there and can at least do some basics.
Exactly. There are a lot of schools that, will train people to wrestle, and they don't necessarily go over actual refereeing and actual managing. They just kind of like, hey, here's what we do.
Okay.
They talk about it a little bit, but I actually want to put an emphasis on that stuff because it's important.
It is important. You're teaching them how to act pretty much. And again, sorry, not sorry.
I mean, it's the truth though. Like there are 3 things I normally refer to as pro wrestling, or refer to pro wrestling as: live action comic book, theatrical MMA.
Oh, I like that.
Yep. And a movie, essentially.
I feel like an extra in a movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's
an action movie.
Yeah.
Like we're a condensed action movie in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
In a way of speaking.
It really is.
But yeah, like everybody has to learn all those aspects of it, and that's in that 12-week section.
All right.
12-week, 3 months. It won't go specifically 12 weeks, but it'll go roughly about 3 months.
It'll be about that.
Yeah.
About a trimester.
Essentially, yeah. And then once we get into the practice matches, you have up until what I am doing is like what we did with the grand opening, a student showcase.
Okay.
And every student showcase, the original plan, and we're still kind of up in the air on how specifically we're going to do this. The original plan was we're going to allow the students to invite friends and family and maybe a couple of fans.
Okay.
And then invite promoters. And I already have about 4 or 5, maybe 6 promoters on board.
So not like general audience, just like friends, family, and some fancy people.
Yeah, enough to make it look like an audience, enough to make, fill some seats.
I mean, it does matter, especially if you're taping.
Yes, and that's another thing too, is we will be recording all the showcases. They're not just for people to get in front of an audience.
Oh, very nice.
Yes.
That's different.
The idea behind the showcase is it's their very first match in front of a live audience.
Okay. And
we record it. We give them their content to send to promoters so that way promoters can see it.
See, I love that so much.
And then we're going to do it a couple different ways. One, I haven't told a lot of people out there yet, but I'm in the process of trying to put together a episodic show for New Edge Pro. Piece by piece. It's still in beginning phases. I'm still figuring it out. But we're going to be using those matches from the student showcases for YouTube content and for episodes. And then we're also going to be having them cut promos as like introduction promos. So that way it comes as a package. So there will be 2 videos that go out. One is going to be a private video for the wrestlers only. It's going to include their match. It's going to include their promo. And then it's going to include whatever other information they want to include.
Okay, so they can send it out.
Exactly.
All right.
It's going to be all one video, so that way people can watch. And then the other aspect of those matches is, like I said, there'll be YouTube content, so that way we can promote the school, promote the shows, and give these people a chance, a chance to get their faces out there in front of a live audience and in front of a broad audience on YouTube. I am also trying to get us on a couple different streaming services as well. Like I got a response from probably the biggest one that I could have thought would actually respond, and they're the only one to respond. That's exciting. So I'm right now trying to collect as much content as possible to send to them. I have to kind of make some adjustments to some of our previous content, but that's the goal. Like we're fine tuning things, and we're going to be sending content to this.
I'll try and splice everything together in a timely manner.
It's all good. It's all good. That's why like I've developed like our own like live editing system and everything for the show, so that way it's already done. All I got to do is add graphics, and I can send it to a promoter. I can send it to a streaming service.
That's pretty dope. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. This all came as kind of like a very quick, very fast thing. Like everything that's here, the promotion, the school, the setup that we're going for with everything. It came fast, but the goal of it is to take this and turn it into the promotion that everyone wants to be in Michigan. Like they want it to be like I want to shop it around to people. I want people from out of state to be like, yeah, that's the promotion I want to be a part of. That's the promotion.
See, and I wish promotions would go out of state more. I wish out of state promotions would come into Michigan, because we're all like, ooh, this promotion's big and this promotion, but you go a couple states and you look at these other ones and you're like, yeah, that's not really that special. Yeah. It's only special because of where it is.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of how it is. But you need that. You need those different levels.
Yeah, you do. You do.
You need those small promotions so guys can get their first reps. You need those slightly bigger promotions so that way guys can start to like make connections. And every state needs that like one promotion that like everybody wants to be a part of.
That's very true.
In my opinion, in the state of Michigan right now, it's a tie between MCPW and XICW.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Although I stand Chaos, I love them so much.
Chaos is a great promotion,
but they're new still.
Starting.
Yes, no, and I completely agree. Those two are like the top. Those are
Yeah, and the goal is to take this and not necessarily surpass them, but like take an opportunity and make the best of it.
No, that's a valid thing to want to do, is to do better than even you think you can do.
Exactly. And like I said, like honestly, we've already surpassed everything that I thought we would do. When I started booking for TKW, I did not expect guys like Moose to want to work for us. I did not expect guys like EC3 to want to come work with us. I did not expect guys like Flip Gordon to want to come and work with us. I didn't expect any of that at all. I had people reaching out to me, or reaching out to our promotion, and that was when we were still TKW. When I switched everything over to New Edge Pro, um, it it kind of was like starting over. It was like it was more than just rebranding. It was a completely fresh start. So we're still kind of rebuilding from that.
All right, fair enough.
But I feel like with all that kind of falling into place and falling into our laps the way it has with the promotion, with this, with everything, it turned into probably the biggest opportunity I've ever had in my life.
And I'm very happy for you. And
Thank you.
also, I love all of your students, some more than others.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, some of them, first day, second day, third day, whatever the case may be, they're still figuring stuff out. And that's
No, they're all great.
Yeah.
No, and I meant the ones that you taught, like from HOT too, like all of it. They don't all have the same style, not even close.
No.
But they all have the same, I don't know, work ethic. They have the same effect.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of an attitude, and I appreciate that as a fan and as just a human being. Like it's a good vibe you give these whippersnappers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm hoping that we can keep that going with this.
I think you will.
That's the advantage of having at least the knowledge, I guess. Is like when you move it somewhere else, like there's always that question: are people going to actually follow me, or like is anybody going to know who I am, or is anybody even going to even care? That was like my biggest fear when starting this.
Really?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah. Well,
people love you.
I wouldn't go that far. At one point, recently, I probably would have been the most hated guy in Michigan.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation now. But like when I first actually like started thinking, should I put this into motion? Like it's always been an idea. It's always been a dream. It's always been, something like that's a piece of what I want to put out there. And I started like getting messages from people like, hey, I heard you're the guy who's training at House of Truth. Hey, I heard you're the guy that's training this guy. Hey, I heard you. Like, I think in a matter of like 2 or 3 weeks, I had gotten about somewhere between 15 and 25 different messages from people asking about it. Like,
that's a lot.
And I might be overinflating the number in my head, but like,
after listening to your time thing on the show, I feel like you're probably underselling it.
Maybe, but like, when I started getting those messages, I started thinking to myself, like, these guys are contacting me. They're not contacting House of Truth. They're not contacting Truth. They're not contacting the guy who was running a lot of the business towards the end. There was A.T. Huck. Okay. A.T. Huck's a former referee for the original ECW, and
is he good? Because that'll mean shit to me.
Yeah, he's great.
Okay,
he's a legend in this area. He trained under the essentially the original Godfather of Detroit, Sweet Daddy Malcolm Monroe. Who's like, and he was
I know them.
Yeah, and like he was like their guy, and then he got with Sabu and Rob Van Dam and all those guys, and would travel to ECW, and he got on national television with ECW. And when he, stepped back and everything, like he had, essentially been one of those guys who was running a promotion in Dearborn for a while. I think it was called IWF, it was IWF. And then he pretty much helped other promotions kind of like elevate a lot of things that they were doing over the last few years. Like XICW, he helped out a lot.
Okay.
He helps out, well, I don't know if he still is. He was helping out City Championship Wrestling for a while too, which has ties with House of Truth. And I mean, he's helped me out a lot too. But he was the guy that was essentially handling a little bit more of the direct business for House of Truth. So these guys were contacting me because there were people that were sending them to me, not to House of Truth. And that started getting me thinking, like, I wonder if I could get my own students. I wonder if I could, get an actual school going. And then
the first time somebody asked me when I was going to interview them, I thought I was going to pass out. I was like, what?
It's a weird, it's a crazy feeling.
Like, have you seen my interviews? Like, you listen to me speak, right? Like,
yeah. Then that's a good thing about your interviews. They feel more like a conversation than an interview.
That's because it is.
Yeah.
It is a conversation because I want to know and I want everybody else to know. And why, like, you can ask questions in a normal conversation. You don't have to make it all like, that's my thing. That's what I do.
Yeah. But like when I started getting these messages, I'm like thinking to myself, like, do I really, like, could I do this? And then I'm like, I'm going to ask some people. So I started asking friends of mine. Like the first person I hit up was one of my oldest friends in the business, Keith Cream. I hit him up. I asked him, I'm like, hey, I want your opinion on this. And he's like, do it. Like he didn't hesitate. Great. He said, do it. And then I started thinking to myself, like I started talking to a couple of people. I talked to a couple of people that were kind of already were overseeing, kind of was already training a little bit. And I said, and this actually is kind of what led to me helping out at UCW in Saginaw too. Like I hit up a couple of people and said, hey, if I were to start my own school, would you come train under me? And they're like, in a heartbeat. Like 3 of them, like without hesitation said, in a heartbeat, and from different areas.
I mean, that makes sense though. Like after watching you teach, like you're very aware and I don't know, you're really on it. You are, and there's a lot of shit going on. Like you're telling them to do a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But you really pay attention and you make them try again. And you're not mean about it. And like you're like, all right, you're good try or whatnot. And it's not in a pandering it's not a pandering way. It's like a genuine, like, you did a good job, like it's good for now. Like you don't have to be perfect.
We'll just keep building on it.
Yes, and I can see why people would want and be like, yes, I would come with you, because if I had any skill at all and wanted to be trained, I'd be like, yes, I would also come with you.
Yeah.
Don't though. So.
No, I mean, you never know. You never know.
I can't walk. I cannot walk. I trip. So.
I mean, we all do it at some point.
I do it a lot. So I'm good just talking to people and watching the fancy.
Yeah. What solidified it for me though was after like talking with a couple different people, I hit up a friend of mine who was helping out at a different school and said, hey, if I open this, would you come help me train? He said, absolutely, because he was done with the other place. He was already pissed off with them.
Okay.
The last person I talked to was a friend of mine actually who works for Impact. As one of the backstage guys. He's like one of the producers there.
Oh, that's dope.
And I told him, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I want your thoughts. I wasn't sure how to address it, but I was just like, I put it all out there. I'm like, hey, here's my thoughts. I'm going to open a school. I have been trying to decide on this, and this is something I've been really going back and forth with for the last like couple of months.
Okay.
And I finally was like, I'm like, I think I can do this, but I just wanted your thoughts because I know that there's, and I brought to attention, I know that there's House of Truth. I know that there's Can-Am. I know that there's Skull and Bone in Toledo. I know that there's Flint and Saginaw and Kalamazoo. I know that there's a trainer in Cadillac. If he's still training, I'm not sure if he still is. But like, I know that there's all these schools. I also know that there's Black and Brave in Iowa. Like I know about all these schools. I know about Monster Factory. I know about Reality of Wrestling in Texas, Booker T's school.
Oh, okay. I even know him.
Yeah. I know that Gangrel has a school in Florida, and there's 4 other schools in Florida that people would flock to if they had the opportunity to. Like, and all I can think to myself is I feel like there needs to be an alternative to the stuff that's already here. I feel like the schools, and I told him, I flat out, I'm like, dude, I've had a lot of people hit me up that are trained from other places, as well as people who know people that want to get trained, and they've hit me up directly.
Okay.
And the people that train in places were really unhappy with what they're doing or what they got from their training at their schools. And he made it a point. He goes, you're right. I get complaints all the time about a lot of the schools in Michigan. I get complaints all the time about schools in other areas.
I could complain about the schools in Michigan, and I don't even know that much.
Exactly. And when I explain this to him, like I feel like I have an opportunity to make a little bit of a difference for a change and do something positive, not just for wrestling, and not just for Michigan, but for wrestling as a whole. And he goes, well, if you, with your expertise, with what I've seen you do in the ring, with your mindset, I think that you should go for it. And when he said that, like, I immediately was like, okay, maybe I should.
No more excuses,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, so right after that conversation, I actually was at the Impact tapings in Chicago.
Oh.
Because this was back in April.
Okay.
And my friend pulled me aside, and we had like an hour-long conversation during the setup the day before taping.
Jeez.
And we really like talked about it. And he made a point to like say essentially the one thing that sticks out in that conversation is don't put people out that aren't ready, because I've seen so many other places that do that.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, don't just put people out just because you want to get them out of your building. Don't just put people out there because you think they might be kind of ready. Like, you got to make sure that they're ready.
Or they like pass some kind of like time mark.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how any of that works.
Well, the story he told me had nothing to do with time. Like,
that's good.
He had me cracking up because he was talking about a student there and when he brought that to my attention, I'm like, yeah, I don't want one of those. So, like, when I had that conversation, when he and I had that sit down conversation, like, that was it. That was the glue that like put the last piece in place for me to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And right before that was when we had the last TKW show in April.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we had that show in April, and we were gearing up for the May show. And that's when all the drama with TKW,
which I still don't even really understand. And I'm okay not understanding it. Like I've said before, it's fine. It can live in its little drama land.
It just boiled down to money. Like, that's what it boiled down to. It boiled down to money, and myself and the other investor involved were putting more money in than the actual owner themselves. And it became a situation where, like, yeah, we're done with this. Either you're putting your part in.
I remember now. Yeah. I remember. It's clicking.
Yeah.
It's clicking.
Yeah.
I did know.
Yeah. And then the owner had for lack of better terms, he had the balls to threaten me and go public with things. And it's like,
and you were like, bet I have all the receipts.
Yeah. Like, I've been watching. You're like, I have these conversations where you just made yourself look like an idiot.
That's the funnest. When they're like, I'm going to go ahead, I'll do it for you.
And that's exactly what I said. First line, it goes, I didn't want to do this, but unfortunately, my hand's been forced, and the person that this is regarding is threatening to go public with it. I'll do it for you.
I mean, yeah, you might as well.
Yeah. And I had a lot of people say, take it down, take it down, take it down.
But no, I feel like people need to be called out when there's bullshit. If you're a bullshitty bullshitter, people should know you're a bullshitty bullshitter. And then at least they'll be forewarned. If they still want to deal with you, at least you know they're a bullshitty bullshitter.
Exactly.
Like, and then you can make the decision whether you want to deal with this bullshitty bullshitter or not.
Yeah. Well, before that happened, before that conversation had happened, I had already filed the LLC for this. And I had filed it a month prior, after the first red flag.
That's smart. Yeah. That's smart.
I filed it because I knew at some point this would happen, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be a month or a year or 5 years. I wanted the LLC in place, so I filed it.
I mean, that's really, that's like, that's.
Yeah. So I filed it in March of this year.
Okay.
And when I filed it in March, I had it as a backup just in case. And then the April show happened. We got screwed. I had enough, and I took all of the logos, because I also do all of our graphic design for this.
Do you really?
Yes. That video up there,
yeah.
I made that. I use multiple different apps, and different types of things. The logo itself was actually created by a friend of mine who's also a former wrestler.
All right.
Everything I do is through other wrestlers, myself, or through people that I trust that are like fans or attached to the business.
Okay.
Like, even when I get custom gear, I go through a wrestler.
Okay.
But I learned how to do the video editing for our shows, and I did it for all of TKW. when we returned, when I was the booker, I did all of our graphics after the October show because the October show, the person that made that logo was also doing our flyers and match graphics.
Okay.
When I realized I was putting a strain on him, I took the strain off of him and started doing things myself. My friend.
So you're doing all the things here.
I'm doing all the graphic design, all the video editing. When matches go up on YouTube, I'm the one who has done all the editing, all the graphic work for it. I put all of the signatures on it together. Like I did all of this stuff, and this is a mentality that I want to push to students as well, to find a way to make myself more valuable to the business.
I mean, that's what I try to do. I'm not very useful to begin with, but I do try to be useful to people in whatever little way, because I mean, it's the least I can do.
Exactly. Like I have students since training with me, whether they had that skill or not, they started utilizing some of their skills. I have another student that literally started making gear after he got trained. And he makes all of his own gear, and he's starting to make gear for other people.
I talked to him. He wants to. He asked to sit down with me. I was so excited. Okay, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Like, but that's the whole point. Like, I specifically made myself more valuable to whatever company that I could help with. And when it came time for me to take all of these logos off of all the flyers and match graphics, because this guy decided he was going to try and play games with me when I literally had everything at my disposal. Like, I am the one who secured all of our resources.
He after around and found out, didn't he?
Yes. And not only that, he got exposed for being an untrustworthy person, and is now trying to bring back his company, and does not understand that no one wants to work for him. That's a whole nother conversation, though. So when that happened, I had already had that in place. We switched everything over, and we rebranded it, and we brought this new promotion into the world very much on May 19th. And I didn't think that in October the school would already be open by then.
That's really impressive.
Like I just
you hit the ground literally running, and you did your little, what's the somersault thing?
Forward roll or right arm roll, left arm roll.
Yes.
I hit the ground running, and I hit the ground with as much speed as I possibly could. I knew we were going to get a little bit of steam lost. I expected it.
I mean, it's kind of a new business kind of thing.
Yeah, it happens with every business. Plus, I know that once that logo got removed, so did certain fans. And I was totally fine with that, because those were fans that were attached to the owner. And
I mean, he can have them then.
Yeah. So, and it's funny to me because I had more support once we put the new logo up there. Once that ended up on the flyers, like I had more support than I probably ever had. Not just from fans, but from the wrestlers themselves, from people in higher places. And even when I made a announcement about the idea of the school being open up, a lot of people got mad, because they're like, well, how could you do that to Martin? And I'm okay with touching base on this one, because this is another thing that I thought I didn't defend myself, but I knew I had to at least set the record straight on certain things. The first thing that I did, well, I had put out a GoFundMe.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. So I put out a GoFundMe because, and I will go ahead and say this on this, I don't mind. My thought on this was, what are people gonna share faster, a GoFundMe or a regular post?
A GoFundMe.
Yeah, because if it's something that they believe in, they're gonna share it, and they're gonna spread it like wildfire.
I do.
And I didn't go into that with the intention of, oh, this is gonna fund us and get us up and going. No, I went in that with the mentality of, this is gonna create awareness.
I mean, it does, even if you don't donate, because there's a lot of times I'm broke as hell.
Exactly.
But I'm like, all right, I'll keep this in mind, though. Like, this is a thing I want to think about.
Exactly. So the goal with that was to create a little awareness, get a little conversation spread. And the day after, and I have a ton of respect for the guy who did this, immediately jumped on and just started calling it disrespectful and disgusting. And because I mentioned the fact that we were opening in Waterford, because this right here, this building was the first one we got to look at. And then after looking at all the other buildings over the course of a month and a half, Like I used that name to test the waters. I used Waterford to test the water specifically while I looked at other buildings. And there was a couple other buildings I almost ended up taking over this. But this one ended up being the best fit for us.
Okay.
With the space, with even the owners built that office for us specifically to put us
Oh,
in.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice. It works well. It
Yeah.
works very well.
But like they were upset. A lot of people were upset. And a lot of people didn't know that I was behind it at first. They thought, well, okay, this is just some guy that like is opening up a school that nobody's ever heard of.
But even if it is, take several seats, sirs and ma'ams. Like, what the fuck does it matter?
Well, but they're right though, to an extent.
Are they?
To an extent, and here's why. I mentioned the other schools that are already pretty much within about an hour and a half of this area.
Okay.
They're great schools.
Yeah.
Skull and Bone, House of Truth, Can-Am. They're the only other school I would recommend outside of those three is on the other side of the state, and that's Josh Raymond. But when I posted that, and they're like, "Oh, well, this is disgusting, disrespectful," I knew it was going to ruffle feathers. Yeah, I stutter a lot sometimes. I knew it was going to cause some issues. I knew people were going to talk. I knew people were going to talk shit. Because they were going to be like, oh, well, he's just ripping off Martin and Truth Martini. Or he's just like, or he's stabbing Truth in the back. And a lot of people didn't realize when they found out it was me, that was their first impression. Truth had known from day one that I was planning on opening a school.
I mean, he didn't strike me as a stupid man, so.
No, but not only that, but he made me a better trainer specifically for that reason.
Oh, that's nice.
He on multiple occasions brought up, well, when you have your own school, or I know you talked about opening up your own school, or when you start training on your own, or when you start
you should encourage those baby birds to get out of the nest. That's what promoters should do with wrestlers.
Exactly. So it like when people didn't know about that, and a lot of people recently have found out about this, and immediately shut their mouths because they went straight to the source. They went straight to him and asked them about it themselves.
Well, see, that's smart, but most people don't do that. They're just like, me.
Exactly. But I had the support of Truth himself, who was my mentor and my trainer and trusted me with his school for 3 years.
Then nobody should say anything. They should all STFU.
Exactly.
Just shut up.
And then I didn't just have his support. I also had A.T. Huck's support, who was the business partner for Truth Martini.
Okay.
And one of the biggest backstage guys in the entire Detroit area.
Oh, I don't
So
know.
I had his support.
That's dope.
And then I have the support of my friend from Impact, who
Okay.
encouraged this and has actively been telling other people who have asked him about my school, yes, I think what Sean is doing is great, and I think it's a great alternative for what's already out there. And he actually plans on coming in at some point and observing the school and kind of seeing what we're doing with it. It was that moment of gratification when I had that, and that person that immediately jumped on it and started just kind of tearing it apart. I sent him a respectful private message and told him exactly what was going on and exactly why I'm doing this and exactly what support I have. And by the end of that conversation, he was like, I didn't realize you cared about this area this much to actually take an interest and try and do something good for it. I appreciate it.
But should you even have to defend yourself? I know you. I feel like we're mostly friends, right?
Yeah. I didn't think I would either.
Why would you have to prove yourself to people that are your friend? I trust you. I trust that you're doing a thing for a good reason. Yes, you've explained it, but I came out the gate thinking he's doing this for good reasons.
Absolutely.
So I don't know.
But you never know with some people, and I get it, because there's some people that would be like, I'm going to teach you how to wrestle, teach you how to bump, teach you how to do a couple moves, and then send you off and go get injured at the show. I don't want that, ever. And I want more schools that have that.
I appreciate everybody checking. Dang it, I can't remember her name.
Adina?
Yes, thank you. They were checking her out, while she has autonomy, you still let her know like it wasn't okay, like it's not safe. And yet it upset her. But the way everybody handled it and took care of her, and like you were checking to make sure people were okay. I love that so much, because some
I feel like I do that too much sometimes.
No, I mean, I don't think you can do it too much, because there's some promotions that don't give a fuck.
No,
they don't care. They don't care.
That is the truth.
And I don't even want to spend money at those promotions, because it makes me just absolutely livid that you're so cavalier about people's safety. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, for so long, the mentality of it is, oh, he got injured. Cool. All right, now we're going to find somebody to replace him.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it's not nearly as bad as it used to be, but it's still like, oh, shit, we got to figure out what we got to do, because we really wanted to do this with him.
Yeah.
But he can't.
I mean, it's like if your employee gets injured, you wanted them to work the damn shift, but you got to figure out something anyway, because you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And if I could count on both hands how many times I've had somebody bail or get injured, or like find out that they can't do something, or like get car trouble and get stuck, or have a family emergency the day of a show and I don't get to work with them, or I don't get them on my show, whatever the case may be. Over 18 years, I probably have lost my mind. How many times that's happened. But like, I don't want our guys to go out there and get stuck in that position. I also don't want our guys to go out there and feel like they can just get taken advantage of right off the bat, because there's a lot of promoters that will do that with students, especially when they start traveling out of state.
Yeah. I mean, even in state, there's people that have just graduated that are going to work for free on shows, and like, excuse me, I don't care. I don't care. If you want them to be actually in the ring doing a match for you, you should at least cover their gas. I don't care if they just graduated yesterday. Yeah. Like, it's one thing, like, you go help out and you do referee, like, whatever. You should just do that. But if you're in a match and people are coming to see you and the promoter's not paying you, no. Yeah.
Especially if they're specifically coming to see you. I had a promoter, and I kind of mentioned this promoter earlier, and I probably told you this story, actually, now I'm thinking about it too, that essentially didn't want to pay my rate, and this is what I want these students to avoid. Didn't want to pay my rate. Not only didn't want to pay my rate, when I gave him a discount on my rate, didn't communicate with me to confirm whether or not they was actually on the show. So I spent a month and a half thinking I was on the show and not seeing a single advertisement for me and my tag partner. Then when I contacted him, he was like, oh, so-and-so was supposed to tell you we don't need you. So-and-so didn't book me, you booked me. And then when I saw him at a show a couple months later, he laughed, looked at somebody else and said, oh, this guy doesn't want to work for us. And then when I explained to him, that's not what happened at all. Like, you just didn't want to pay me. And then he was like, yeah, well, you're right around the corner. Like, I don't care. Like, this is my rate. Like, nobody's paying me what you offered to pay me. And he tried to offer me like this, like a portion of our rate.
Yeah, no, that's not okay.
It's not
okay at all. You guys have
like
to make money, because you have other things. It's not just your time they're paying for it. They're paying for all of your training, the time you go into practicing, your gear, your self-promotion, the time you spend on videos, the time you spend on graphics, like all of that's built into the product. We're buying a product. If I ran a promotion and I wanted to hire a wrestler, I'm buying the entire thing for however long I need you. Like the whole package. I'm
paying you to draw people in so that way we can all make money together.
Yes.
Exactly. So if I can't trust you to pay me what I know that I'm worth, then why would I ever want to come back and do business with you?
And don't ever discount yourself.
Yeah. Oh, there's a difference between a discount and working with people. Like, a discount is like, I'm
not going to like $20.
I'm willing to work with people I like.
I mean, that's fair. I do the same thing. I say that because, but I do the same thing.
Yeah. But like, when after that conversation, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I see how you do business. And I just never sought out to do business with him. And when people ask me, hey, what do you think of this? I'm like, hey, it's a booking. I mean, if you want to do business there, cool. If not, you'll be better off. That's reality.
I mean, that's fair. And that seems equitable.
Yeah.
That seems very generous, honestly, because I am more than happy telling people why I think a promotion sucks balls and all the reasons why I think nobody should do anything with them.
Oh, I was that way for a while. And then I realized, you know what? People are going to work where they want to work.
I mean, they are. They are, but I don't like people seeing people mistreated. It just irks me on a base level.
Exactly. And I also, going back to the school, like, that's specifically one of the things I'm trying to do too, is I'm not just inviting promoters to come and watch the showcase so that they can see who they want to book. I'm also giving the students a list of promoters to reach out to as well. And I'll give them my opinions on each promotion, but it's up to them to form their own opinions.
It's fair enough. I feel like people should be warned. And then again, if you want to go work with asshole Lee McAsserson, go ahead. That's fine. But don't say I didn't say something.
Exactly.
So just let's be clear.
I can warn somebody all day.
I warned you.
Yeah. I can warn somebody all day, but if you're intent on working for them, or you're intent on working with them, or you're intent on booking that person, okay, cool. Like,
don't come back to me and start complaining though, because I told you.
Yeah. I've had my moments where I could finally say, "Hey, I told you so." For more than one person, and then people are like, "What do you mean?" Well, I warned you about this guy, or I warned you about that promoter, but you didn't listen. So that's okay.
Yeah, I've had enough therapy. I only do it once. Like, I'll warn you once, and then whatever.
I had to learn that part the hard way too. When helping out at other schools, I used to be the guy that's like, got to keep drilling in their head. Got to keep drilling in their head. You can't do this. You can't act like this. You can't be this person. And then I came to the realization, and I watched a couple other people's approach, and I watched them say, "Yeah, I'll have one conversation with them," and then it's up to them on what they do with it.
Yeah.
After that, like, yeah, they were here, but like, I thought it was funny because there was a guy that I actually warned about several promoters too, and everybody turned it into, "Oh, he's trying to get you blackballed." I'm like, no, I'm just saying, keep an eye out for this behavior. This is what I'm seeing.
I think that's important. There's a lot of not good behavior, like both like socially and like in the ring. And you don't want to encourage that shit. Exactly.
And that same person, I was like earlier this year, I was like, "Told you." But that's also the nature of the business. There's going to be, like, you've got all these egos, you've got all these different personality types, and they all come together like a fraternity. And I might not like this person, but I trust them. I respect them. I know they're going to keep me safe. I might not want to work with this guy, but I know he's going to keep me safe. So I'm going to do business with him because that's what the promoter wants. That's what I'm here. I'm here to do a job. If it ever gets to a point where I don't trust somebody to the point that I don't want to work with them, then by all means, I'm not going to. And that's my choice, and that's their choice, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of promoters that people are way too trusting of. There's a lot of workers that people are way too trusting of. And I got to a point with, like I said, with myself, where I'll have one conversation with a person, and what they do with it after that is their own judgment. And it's not going to be, you can't do this. It's hey, I wouldn't recommend this.
Yeah, maybe shouldn't oughta.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't. Yeah. Like, if it was me.
Yeah.
Like, you would not catch me.
Yeah. And I've told people, like, hey, I am not going to work for that person because this reason. And when I give them the story, when I give them the exact reason, I let them make their decision from there. And I've had some people, and I've told some people, hey, this is there's only one promoter that I'll actually say, don't go work there. But people still work there. So it is what it is. I can only say, don't go there so many times before people are
I gotta know. You don't gotta tell me on camera, but I want to know. I'll probably forget.
Oh yeah, well,
so
you probably already know who I'm talking about.
I probably don't.
Oh, okay.
I probably don't.
Yeah, but no, that's part of why I did this. I want people to have the opportunity to have good places to work,
I like
I
it.
want people to have the opportunity to have a school that they can go to that they don't have to drive 2-3 hours to. I want people to have a place that they can go to and actually feel comfortable and safe. And pro wrestling for too long has not been that for a lot of people, and various different type of people as well.
There's a lot of minorities, and I mean women, POC, LGBTQ. Like there's a lot of gatekeeping going on too. But I'm not even gonna that literally is another conversation because I don't know if my battery actually. 2 seconds. I hate doing this. No, it's
You're good.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Okay.
Yes. I was just a little worried.
Yeah.
I have anxiety.
That makes two of us. But no, yeah, like, and I'll be the first to admit that I was doing a lot of that gatekeeping when I first started training.
Seriously? I'm going to die, and do you even care? No. You just think about yourself.
That's your battery.
It's at 20%, so it's all right for a minute.
So it does that.
Finish.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but I used to do a lot of that gatekeeping myself. Not because I didn't want the newer generation to come in, but because it's like I felt like there was a standard that needed to be upheld, and I felt like there was a lot of people that didn't meet that standard. And when I realized that's not how this works anymore.
I mean, we can't.
My brain changed.
I can't. I used to get very angry because not everybody would do things like the way I do them, and they weren't honest and But like, not everybody can be like me. That's not how life works. Like they have to be the best them. Sometimes it's kind of cringy, but God bless them and change me.
Yeah.
God bless them.
All I could think to myself these days when it comes to wrestling is there needs to be something a little bit different. There needs to be an alternative. There needs to be something better. And I'm not saying wrestling is bad.
No.
I'm not saying the promotions in Michigan are bad.
No, everything has its issues. And if those issues aren't addressed, they fester and they create an infection.
Exactly. Like I just don't want to see, like, I want to see people that deserve a chance get the right chance and not get taken advantage of just trying to get that chance. I want to see people who want to train at a place that's not going to feel like they're being bullied or pushed out. I want them to have a place that they can go to. Like I have students that attend multiple schools that do drop-ins here now, and it's only been 3 days.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, because they want extra training.
So you can just do that. You can just drop it in. I noticed somebody was here and then they left.
Yeah. So
is that just a drop-in?
Nope. Well, kind of. He's a new student, but he has a limited schedule because he's in college in Ann Arbor for U of M. So it's expensive for him to get out here. So that's why he's only able to do one day a week right now.
I mean, beats a kick in the head. I feel like you're very thorough. I've never watched another wrestling school other than like on TV.
No.
But
my biggest thing is we're thorough for a reason. Like good schools, and from what I have seen, good schools are very thorough for
well, you've been
safety.
at good schools.
Exactly.
So the safety is that's
the most important.
The end all and the be all, right? The trust and the safety.
Exactly.
It goes back to the wrestling code. See, I remember some things.
Yes. Trust and safety are all like a part of respect. If I can't trust you, I can't respect you. If you can't be safe with me, I can't trust you. It all ties together. If I can't respect you, I don't know if you're going to be safe with me.
I mean, fair enough.
It all cycles together. I don't want people to go and feel like they can't be comfortable in their own skin because they're at a different place or because they're not sure who they can trust.
So like you would be fine with LGBTQ or trans or POC.
Absolutely. So
what the minorities in the world, I really hate using that word.
No. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I will dive a little personal on this part of it real quick. I am absolutely all for that, specifically because I'm a father, and I don't know if I've said anything about this publicly, but my daughter is gay, and the one fear that I have for her, because my sister also, who is gay, dealt with a lot of shit growing up, and I want my daughter to be able to see, hey, you can move forward and be who you want to be who you deserve to be in life, be who you are meant to be, and still follow your dreams. Still, like move toward things, like still like, involve yourself in things that you love and you're passionate
One
about.
doesn't negate the other.
Exactly.
Just because you want to be your true, who you feel is your true self doesn't mean you can't still do those things you love and you've always dreamed of.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that.
And there are people in her life I worry will take that away from her. So I want her to see that she doesn't have to listen to that side of things. There are also people that I am close friends with that are trans. And I won't go into names on this one, but I have a friend that used to train at Dan Severn's school.
Okay.
They got out of training a few months in. They would occasionally go back, and then they would go and do a little bit of training with other places. And they actually became a wrestler at a couple of different promotions for a little bit. They randomly disappeared out of nowhere. Like, not disappeared, but like they randomly just kind of fell off the face of the earth. And then one day they just popped back up on social media, transgendered.
Okay.
And I was shocked, but also was like kind of proud of her for doing that. And she actually attends my shows.
Oh.
And at the same time, I have other friends that are transgendered who work in other areas, and they didn't have the opportunity to work up here because there were a lot of promotions that wouldn't book. There's a
lot of nasty ass motherfuckers.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say that. I'm probably gonna get shit for swearing so much, but there are some awful people.
This business is the most inclusive yet judgmental, or what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess this is both inclusive and judgmental at the same time. And it's a tough business. You got to know how to navigate it. And the last thing that I want is for people to walk through here and think, I'm not going to be welcome here because of the color of my skin, or because I'm gay, or because I'm trans, or because I have a disability. I don't want people to feel that way ever.
I mean, there's a one-legged wrestler. He's great. I can't remember his freaking name.
Zach Gowen.
Yes.
Zach Gowen.
He's great.
I got to work with him last year for the first time.
That's
I was
dope.
So excited. He used to work for WWE.
Yes, I even know that. But see, again, I don't like him because he's famous. I like him because he's good.
Yeah. And then he's on a tag team with another guy named Gregory Iron, who has cerebral palsy.
Oh, yes, I saw them.
They're known as the Handicap Heroes.
They're so funny, though. And they're good. They're fun.
Exactly. They're both, they're not good for a guy with one leg. They're not good for a guy with cerebral palsy. No, they're just good. They're legitimately good at their craft, both of them.
And it's not sometimes I feel like it's performatory.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to handicap person. Good for you, way to show off. Because there's some promotions that do that, and they're look at our special wrestlers, which is fucking gross. Yep. But anyway, I digress.
Yep.
But they're just wrestlers. It just so happens.
They happen to have that. Yeah.
And they do make light of it, and they kind of include that in there because you can't avoid the topic. He's missing a goddamn leg.
Yeah.
But it's not made all about that, and I appreciate that. I feel like that's important.
Absolutely. Some of the best wrestlers on the planet have a disability of their own. It's crazy sometimes.
I'm pretty sure they all do.
To some extent. Let's be real. Most of us are at least ADHD. Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
Some of us might be a little autistic.
A little bit. Yeah. There's not much difference, really.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Okay.
But and that's the type of stuff that I'm happy to see. When I saw Zach Gowen when I was 19 and saw Zach Gowen for the first time on WWE.
He's been around that long?
He trained in 2001.
Dang.
He got into TNA in 2003 and got signed by the WWE months later. Oh, he's my age. He'll be 40 this year if he's not already 40. I think he might be a year younger than me.
Age.
No. He was 19 when we got into WWE. I was 19 at the time, so we're about the same age, actually.
Oh, that's really dope.
He's been in longer than me.
Wow.
I actually first saw him in TNA when it was a part of NWA, and they were doing weekly pay-per-views, and he was Tenacious Z. And he had a singlet where one leg was tied, and then he popped up on WWE in a Hulk Hogan Roddy Piper angle, and Piper accidentally took his leg off, and they utilized that as like a